Today I am going to show you how to complete some basic formatting tasks that we learned in Word in Excel. One of the first tasks that we may want to do is to add a title to our spreadsheet. As we have learned before, we can simply select the row below which we want to add the new row, go over to Insert and choose Insert Rows. Just as we did in Word, we can highlight the cells that we want to create our title cell from and simply choose Merge, and it will place all of those cells together. We can then type our title in our title cell. We're going to pretend that these are some class test scores. And we can align that cell just as we did in Word. So our title cell was usually vertically centered and horizontally centered. As you can see, your vertical centering is at the top, your horizontal alignment is at the bottom. We can then space out our cells just as we did in Word, except that we cannot get the double-sided arrow within our spreadsheet. We have to go to the row markers or the column markers in order to get that double-sided arrow. So I'm going to go ahead and make my title cell a little bit taller. So I'm going to go between the cell row markers for 1 and 2 and click and drag down so that there's a little more space for my title. And I will go ahead and format my header row as we did in Word, just to make it look a little nicer. The next thing that we might have wanted to do was to distribute our rows and columns evenly. And we did that in Word by selecting the rows or columns and then choosing the Distribute Rows or Columns button. In Excel, there is no such button. We have to distribute the rows and columns a little bit differently. So first we will want to select all the columns or rows that we want to distribute evenly. So I'm going to click on A through F in order to select all of those columns. I'm going to go to the very last column and get the double-sided arrow, and then I can simply choose to make the columns wider, or I can choose to make them skinnier, and I'm going to choose to make them just a bit skinnier. And then when I let go, you can see that it has distributed those columns evenly. I'll now do the same thing for the rows, highlighting through the rows that I want it to distribute evenly. Go to the very last row, and this time I'm going to pull down because I want them to be just a little bit wider. Now, you may notice a problem now that I have distributed my columns evenly. The column header in column F no longer fits in the cell. We can choose to fix this by having Excel wrap the text in that cell. We simply select the cell with Final Test, come up to that alignment section on our ribbon, and choose Wrap Text. You can choose to shrink to fit or to simply wrap the text, which means that it forces the next part of the header to go on the next line, which we shall do. And now we can see both words, Final and Test, in that header row cell. The next thing that we might want to do to our Excel file is to add some borders and shading. We have done this in a previous video, but I will give you a little bit of a reminder. To shade a cell, you simply click in the cell, go to the fill bucket, and choose a color that you like. To do borders, you highlight the section of your spreadsheet that you would like to add borders to, and you can use the Quick Borders box to quickly add borders. If you would like some more control over what borders are added, you can simply highlight those cells again, go again to the Quick Borders box, and choose Border Options at the bottom. This now allows you to choose the style of your line, as well as the color, and then you can use this section right here to go ahead and decide where you would like to add those specific borders. Let's say I want to add a different border on the inside. I can simply come over here, choose another border, choose another color, and then continue to click on which borders I would like to be which style. When I'm finished, I can choose OK, and you will see that my table has new borders on it. The final thing that we may want to do is to sort our data. Again, as you did in Word, go ahead and highlight your data and your header row. This time, instead of going to Table, we will go to Data and choose Sort. Just as we did in Word, you need to make sure that the box that says My List Has Headers is checked, and then you can choose which column to sort by. So I'm going to sort by my final test, and I can also choose to sort by values, cell color, font color, and cell icon. For right now, we're only going to ever sort on values, and then we can choose smallest to largest or largest to smallest. And I am going to choose largest to smallest. I can then, if I wanted to, add another rule to sort by after this rule was sorted by. So after I sort by their final test, if someone has the same final test, I would like it to then sort by test 5. So I will choose test 5, and again I want it largest to smallest, and then I will say OK. And as you can see, it sorted all of my values. You can also see that I made a mistake as I sorted. My average row is now in the middle of my table. It sorted it along with the rest of my data. So I will need to go back and fix that. I'll go ahead and undo, and I will make sure that this time I do not select that average row as I go to sort. I can apply the same rules that I did the last time, clicking the plus sign to add an additional rule to follow, and say OK. And now you can see that I have correctly sorted so that it's sorting first by final test and then by test 5, which you can see with these particular students, they both would have had a 68 on the final, but got 90 and then 86 on test 5.